Today I want to talk about the difference between what I consider mental health and mental illness, because I hear the term mental health used a great deal. It's great that we're all talking about mental health and well-being, but I think that we're also failing, probably because it's quite a difficult territory to talk about, to actually explore mental illness. And for me, they are completely distinct areas. And I'm going to describe why I feel they're so different. And hopefully, if you don't really understand mental illness, you'll get the actual analogy I'm going to give. And if you do have mental illness, I hope that it kind of connects with you, that people do understand in my world how difficult and challenging it is to have a mental illness of any kind. Imagine that you sprained your ankle, you walk into the hospital, A&E, they give you a check over, have a play around with it and say, yeah, off you go, you're sorted. Make sure you look after yourself for the next few days. Eat a decent diet, get a bit of light exercise, but it's going to be okay soon. Brilliant. That's mental health. Mental health is something that you do have the opportunity to control to a degree. You can create different elements in your world that mean that you contribute to more positive mental health and well-being. Likewise, you can do some really crappy things for yourself, like drink too much or take drugs, and that will also contribute to your negative well-being mentally. Mental illness, however, is this. You get into A&E, you're on a stretcher, you fell off a building, you've broken your leg, it's shattered in 100 places. It doesn't matter how much I tell you you're going to be all right. It doesn't matter how much nice food you have, how many people surround your bed and tell you that they love you. The truth is, you need a lot more than that. You are going to need professionals, consultants from the orthopaedic area. You're going to need healing after you've actually been operated on by a surgeon. You're going to have to go to physiotherapy. You're going to have to probably get some home help while you recuperate, and it's going to be a long process. That's mental illness. It doesn't matter how much you want to be well. It doesn't matter how hard you work at being well. There will be periods of time that are completely beyond your control where you are rendered incapacitated because of that mental illness. I'm going to take the example of psychosis. Psychosis is something that my father has occasionally suffered from. And with psychosis, it's like you are terrified of everything and everyone. You genuinely believe that everyone that you love is against you. You think that people are plotting and conspiring to harm you. You often think you're guilty. My dad tried to take responsibility for the First and Second World War, even the Third World War, which we didn't even know had happened, but apparently he's in control of that as well. And whilst I'm kind of laughing at that situation, it only is laughter because I'm in a situation now where I know we've got the right help and he no longer has those horrible feelings. But imagine being that person, and there's no point trying to rationalise with them. You can't say, oh, you're in psychosis, don't worry, it's all going to be fine, because to them, everything that they feel, see, hear, experience is real. It's like me saying now, this is not my hand, and then you telling me, well, it is your hand, and I'm like, it's not my hand, it's nothing like my hand, and you telling me it is, but to me, it just isn't there. It's as real as that. Now, with those kind of episodes, you need psychiatric help. You need pharmacological sustenance through things like antipsychotics, obviously antidepressants, sometimes anti-anxiety medications, sometimes some very specialised, complex, coordinated approaches to getting the chemicals in your brain right, but you need them. So I wanted to do this video because I think that we're getting too lax about talking about mental health and grouping in mental illness, which is a very, very distinct area. And the other thing is every mental illness is as distinct as the next. So if you imagine going on a ward, you tend to go, if you've got a heart issue, on the cardiology ward, if you've got a hearing issue, on the ENT ward. When it comes down to mental health, you tend to be on a mental health ward. But again, I don't think it's the right title, because the truth is that people there might have dementia if they're older, they might have schizophrenia, they might have bipolar, they might have psychosis, they might have clinical depression. No, it's as far-reachingly different between each of those disorders as you could imagine it to be, and yet we put them all on the same ward and treat them all pretty much the same way, and often don't get any therapy. It's just kind of locking them up and making sure they're getting the meds on time so they can get the balance right, because we don't fund it anymore. It's a crazy situation. However, what I wanted to say finally is, if you are sat listening to this now and you are struggling, you are struggling with reality, you feel like you genuinely are having an acute period of mental illness, you need help, you just need it. It's horrible, I get it. Going and committing yourself to an inpatient facility, going and telling your GP you're not coping, it's just awful. It's the worst thing in the world to have to go through. And they're not nice places either to go, I agree. But if that gets you right, then you need to do it, because you need to be your own best friend in those circumstances. And when it comes down to looking after your mental wellness after that, of course, I'm going to say protecting your mental health by exercising, making sure that you get outside, surrounding yourself with people that you love, making sure you eat a healthy diet, encouraging you to socialise with people who care for you and love you. Of course, that's important for stabilising and helping you to maintain positive mental health and well-being, but it isn't the same as dealing with mental illness. And anybody who's listening to this now, if you've got someone at home who suffers severely with mental illness, please be patient, be understanding. I know it's frustrating. I know it is frustrating when you have to reassure someone for the 25,000th time that you're not going to leave them. I get it. But imagine needing that kind of reassurance. Imagine how acutely painful it is to be emotionally living in that world. So, I know I always say about being kind and stuff, but I mean it. If there's somebody around you who needs your help and needs you to be present for them during an acute period of mental illness, then just stand by their side strongly and understand that whilst you might wish to believe that if they tried a little bit harder, pushed a little bit further, went and exercised a little bit harder, they'd all be okay, that's not true. They need psychiatric help and they need pharmacological drugs that will help their brain function again. So if there's one thing you can do, take them seriously, help them engage and support them during. And then afterwards, sure, get them running because it won't do any harm.